Hello, good morning, Pak Yuda. My name is Iskandar Idris with student ID 293251110, part of Blemba 38. Today I will explain my mid-exam that consists in two problems. Problem 1, financial analysis and stock analysis of PT Salim Infomas Pratama, and problem 281 about bond valuation. First, here I will show you the balance sheet of Salim Infomas Pratama. I collect this from the annual report ya Pak. I collect from 2020 to 2024. In here we can see total current assets, total non-current asset, and total assets in total. And also we have here liabilities, current and non-current, and total liabilities, and also we have here total equity. Next sheet is a statement of profit and loss. I also collect this from annual report 2020 to 2024. Here we have the revenue, the cost of goods sold or COGS. We have a gross profit here. Also, we have operating profit here, profit before income tax, profit of the year, or net income ya Pak in here. And also we have a basic profit per share attributable to the owners of the parents. Next sheet is cash flow. Here we have cash flow from operating activities, revenue, cash generated from profits, net cash provided by operating activities, net cash used in investing activities, and yeah, and the end we have a cash and cash equivalent at the end of the year. So with all this data, balance sheet, profit and loss, and cash flow, we will calculate the financial ratio that we will analyze, and we can see about the company. Yeah, next sheet is time series analysis. Here we have a financial ratio. Uh, before we next the form to the formula, I will explain what is time series analysis. Time series analysis is a financial analysis method used to evaluate companies' performance by examining financial data over several years. This method focuses on identifying trend, patterns, and change in financial ratios from year to year, allowing analysts me to observe how a company's financial condition evolves over time. By analyzing historical financial data, time series analysis provides insight into whether a company performance is improving, declining, or remaining stable across different periods. Conducting time series analysis is very important because it helps stakeholders understand the company's long-term financial development rather than relying on a single year's performance. A single year analysis may not accurately reflect the company's overall financial condition, as it could be affected by temporary factors. Through time series analysis, investor, manager, and analysts can identify consistent growth patterns, detect potential financial weakness, and evaluate the sustainability of the company's financial performance over time. The ratio we have here, we have several ratios here. First is liquidity ratio. First, we have here current ratio. The formula of current ratio is current asset divided by current liabilities. We have a trend here. It's fluctuated from 0.88 to 1.51, but there is a sharp decrease in 2023. But overall, it's still okay. For time series analysis, it's still okay. Number two is quick ratio. The formula of quick ratio is current assets minus inventory divided by current liabilities. We can see the trend here. It's fluctuated but quite a high recovery in 2024 from 0.58 to 1.05. Next is activity ratio. We have inventory turnover here. The formula is cost of goods sold divided by inventory. We have a trend here. We have a trend. Actually, it's like decline, yeah, decline. We can see the trend is decline, and so I analyze it as poor. Next is total asset turnover. The formula is sales divided by total assets. The trend here is relatively stable. It's around 0.54 until 0.5, and I write it as okay here. Next is debt or coverage ratio. We have debt ratio here with formula total liabilities divided by total assets. The trend here is good. Consistently decline. We can yeah, because in debt ratio we want a low number, right? And then time interest in earn. The formula is earning before interest and taxes divided by interest expenses. The trend here is good, strong upward trend from 2.19 until 5.8. Next is profitability ratio. We have a gross profit margin here with the formula gross profit divided by sales. We can see the trend here is good. Overall is improved from okay, actually it's a percent, yeah, Pak. Okay, I will change it first to percent. Yeah, from 20.8% to 30%. Also, next is operating profit margin with formula operating profit divided by sales. We can see the trend is good, upward trend from 12 to 20%. Next is return of assets or ROA. The formula is net income divided by total assets. We can see the trend is actually good because there's improvement here from 1% to 5.8%. Strong, quite strong improvement. So I said it's good. Next is return on equity or ROE with formula net income divided by total equity. The trend is also good because we can see significant growth here from 1.8% to 9%. Also, next we have a market ratios. Next is earning per share or EPS. The formula is the formula of EPS is net income to parents divided by share outstanding. Here we have a good trend, major increase from 15 to 100. It's a very good increase, yeah. Next is price earning ratio with formula market price divided by EPS. A good ratio. No, it's not really good, but it's decline significantly. So it's good. I rate it is good. Next is payout ratio. The formula is cash dividend but divided by net income. The trend is okay. It's fluctuating, but it's around 3 until 7%. Next is book value per share. The formula is equity to parents divided by share outstanding. The trend here is good. There's a growth here, consistent growth. So I write this as good. Next is market per book ratio with formula market price divided book value per share. Here the trend is decline, yeah, decline. But yeah, that is good. Next is free cash flow. This is the value here is in million rupiah. The formula of free cash flow is cash from operation minus capex. The trend is fluctuating from yeah, from this value to this high in 2020 is quite low, but in 2021 is high, and then low a bit, and then increase again, and then very low in 2024. So in I write good, okay, poor. The criteria is good is clear improving trend and strong performance. With okay is relatively stable or moderate fluctuation, and poor deteriorating trend or high instability. Next is cross-section analysis. Before I explain this table, I will explain what is cross-sectional analysis. Cross-sectional analysis is a method used to compare the financial performance of a company with other company in the same industry at a specific point in time. This analysis helps us to understand whether a company performed better or worse compared to its competitor, but by looking at important financial ratios such as liquidity, efficiency, profit activity ratio, profitability ratio, or market value ratio. The purpose of cross-sectional analysis is to provide a fair comparison between companies that operate in the same industry. Financial uh, ratio are often more meaningful when they are compared with peer companies because companies in the same industry usually have similar business characteristics and risk. By comparing this ratio, we can identify the strength and weakness of a company's financial performance. This analysis is important for investor, analysts, and manager because it helps them evaluate how competitive a company is in the market. It also supports better decision making, such as investment decision or business strategy. So in this case, uh, cross-sectional analysis is used to compare as Salim Infomas Pratama of or SIMP with PT PP London Sumatera Indonesia Tbk LSIP. Okay, in here we have actually same as before, some time series analysis. We have the current ratio, quick ratio, inventory turnover, total asset turnover, and in quick ratio, if we compare to the peer company, it's poor. It's very poor. Current ratio is very lower, that indicating weaker liquidity. Then quick ratio also very also poor because it's very big gap here. This show that LSIP has a much stronger short-term liquidity. And then in activity ratio, the inventory turnover also, if we compare SMIP to LSIP, is very poor. Turnover is yeah, inventory turnover is lower than LSIP. That indicate less efficient inventory management. For total asset turnover, good, yeah, good. That's yeah, bigger number that indicate SIMP use its asset more efficiently to generate sales. Next, debt and coverage ratio. Debt ratio is poor, yeah, because SIMP has smaller value. That meaning that yeah, that lower debt, and then time interest earned also poor because the LSIP here have almost zero, so that's showing a stronger financial position of LSIP. Next is profitability ratio. We have gross profit margin here, very poor, also poor. That indicating weaker cost efficiency. Then next is operating profit margin, also poor. That indicate SIMP is less efficient in operation. Next is ROA, poor, also poor. Also poor. That indicate the peer company or LSIP generate higher profit from its asset, and then return on equity also poor, yeah, poor. That's showing LSIP has lower return for stakeholder. Next is market ratio. We have EPS here also poor. In that indicate lower earning per share. Next is EPS also, no, but EPS is good here, suggesting SIMP may be relatively undervalued. Okay, so this is SIM SIMP is more undervalued. Then in payout ratio, very poor. It's very big gap here from 7% to 1,000. Yeah, that's meaning SIMP distribute a smaller dividend. Next is book value per share, also very poor, big, that indicating smaller net asset per share compared to LSIP. Next, market book ratio, good, uh, suggesting it's good because suggesting the stock might be undervalued. Yeah, the SIMP stock is more undervalued than LSIP. Then the last is free cash flow. Good because higher free cash flow, slightly higher free cash flow, indicating strong cash generation. Okay, next we will do stock valuation. For stock valuation, I did three method here. Yeah, first is Gordon growth model, second is free cash flow model, and third is variable growth model. Okay, first is Gordon growth model. What is Gordon growth model? Gordon growth model produce an intrinsic value. Yeah, because from this calculation, we expected intrinsic value of the stock. So we have a dividend history here. I collect from 2019 until 2025. And here we calculate the dividend growth, and we have average is 83%, but it's too high uh, because we cannot because the dividend growth is too high. We cannot put it in the formula because it will make the value is negative. Yeah, why the dividend growth is really high? Because yeah, because they early period has a low low dividend per share that make the percent is really high, yes, because in 2025 20, but in 2021 is 3. So the calculated growth rate is not sustainable in the long run. To obtain a more realistic valuation, I have a conservative growth assumption. This G is 5%. And then we measure the D1 or dividend next year. D1 is the formula is here. D0 times 1 plus G. So we have here. I calculating it in Excel, yeah. And we have D1 is 21. Then we also need to measure the R required of return. Formula with this formula R equal to RF plus beta times RM minus RF. We have actual data that I got from stockanalysis.com. We have here RF of SIMP, beta, and RM minus RF. So I calculated with Excel and I got 9.31%. And the last step is we calculating the intrinsic value. Yeah, with this formula, yeah, the formula is D1 divided by R minus G. So I calculated using Excel, and we have the intrinsic value of SIMP using Gordon Growth model is 488, and we compare with current price of this SIMP, and we can see it for value. Yes, for value, because in the intrinsic value is less than current value. Next is free cash flow. Free cash flow models. Uh, in free cash flow model, we collect history of free cash flow from year 2020 until to 2025, and we did the average here. Uh, yeah, the G and the R we use is from previous calculation, and then we calculate the firm value using this formula. Free cash flow times by 1 plus G divided by R mean G. So I with Excel I got the firm value is this, and then uh, we have a firm value, and we have here the start outstanding. I got it from annual report, yeah, and then the intrinsic value is the firm value divided by share outstanding, and we have here 3,368. Now, if we compare in current price, the current price is undervalued because when we calculate with free cash model, it's really high, yeah, 3,000. So, sorry, next is a variable growth model. The variable growth model here, we use this formula. Actually, with variable growth model, we assume that in the first 3 years, the percent average dividend growth rate is high, is 88%, and then in year 4 and 5, it's stable at 5%. So we have a history of dividend here. This is the year. This is the history of. Sorry, no. This is the calculation using this formula. We can predict the value of the dividend in year to year, yeah, and then we discount the dividend into present value, because the price of dividend in the future is not same in the now, in the present. So yeah, I did the present value using present value formula, and then also we have terminal value here that we calculate using this formula, yeah, the PD divided by R min G, and also we discount the value into the present value. This is the remark you can see. So the intrinsic value, so we get intrinsic value is a present value of dividend in the year 1 to 3 plus a present value of the terminal value. So we have 529. So if we compare to current price, it's overvalue, because by variable growth model, we got this. Okay, now we compare. Yeah, now we compare. We have got the value. We got a 488 per share. So that indicate the current price is overvalue, suggesting that as suggesting that investor may not obtain significant return, and not recommended to buy in current price. Yeah, we will wait until the stock is decreased. And in this is under if we see by free cash flow model, it's yeah, it's okay to buy now, because we can see from their cash flow and their share outstanding that usually actually the stock price should be 300, so you can buy actually if you want to if you use free cash model. But if we use variable growth model, it's also overvalue. So I suggest investor or myself to wait. Don't buy it. Don't buy in current price, yeah, because it's overvalue. Next is problem 2A1. In this problem, we have two bond, Adira Dinamika Multifinance and Angka Sapura 1 bond. Listing date is same 1 April 2026, but the maturity date is different. The for Adira Dinamika is 31 March 2031, and for Akasapura 30 March 2036. Interest rate is 7 for Adira is 7.05%, and for Akasapura is 8.6%, is higher. Yeah, the Akasapura is higher, and then the frequency interest is same 3 months, 3 months, and yeah, and we need to calculate and analyze which bond is better, or which bond that I would invest. So in this table, I just collect the important parameters. Like, yeah, this is the important parameter. Number one is coupon rate. Number two is maturity. Number three is issue price, and then the transaction cost for both Adira and Kasapura. The coupon rate of Adira is 7.05%. Maturity is 5 years. Issue price in is 96%. Oh yeah, uh, for uh, for Adira, the Adira is sell at discount at 97%. So we got discount here. Yeah, we got discount here. And then transaction cost is 1%. So first we need to calculate total initial investment that we pay. Okay, for this calculation, I assume I invest 1 million rupiah, 100 million rupiah. So yeah, the par value or the bond value is 100 million rupiah, but the bond price that we pay in the first phase is only 97 million rupiah because we got discount. Yeah, we got discount before, and then and then also we have transaction cost here, and our total initial investment is sum of bond price 97 million plus 1 million. So our total investment is 98 million rupiah. And then we calculate the coupon. Okay, coupon we calculate by by par value 100 million rupiah times the coupon rate. Yeah, we have 7,050,000 rupiah. So this 7 million is what we got in a year, but the coupon payment is per 3 months. So in a year we receive 4 coupon. So every coupon we get 7,050,000 rupiah, 50,000 rupiah divided by 4. So we have 1,762,500 rupiah. So how many coupon that will I get? So I just calculate the maturity for coupon per year times by maturity. So I will get 20 coupon per lifetime. So total coupon that we get is quarterly coupon payment times by number of period. So in all period we got 35 million 2,050,000 rupiah. Yeah, here. And then we calculate the profit, of course. Because our principal repayment is 100 million rupiah and our cash receive is total coupon during life of bond times the par value, and also yeah, we got to profit this minus this our total investment, and we got 37 million 250,000 rupiah. And then we calculate approximate yield. Our total return is total profit divided by our total investment. So we got 38% here. So in period 5 years, we got yield 38%. It's high, yeah, it's quite high. But when we calculate the annual's return, because we want to see the average of the year, average every year. So 38% divided by 5. So we got here 7.6%. Uh, I have a comment here. The bond is purchased at a discount. Uh, so we get higher yield than the coupon rate because we got the bond at the discount. So next is I compare it to Angkasa Pura bond. Coupon rate is higher, 8.6%. Maturity is also longer, 10 years. Issue price 100%. So the difference is the Angkasa Pura is not discount, and transaction cost is 2% higher than transaction cost of Adira. So we calculate the same initial investment, par value 100 million rupiah, bond price is, yeah, we pay 100 million rupiah, of course. Transaction cost is 2 million rupiah, so our total investment is 102 million rupiah. We calculate the coupon. Annual coupon payment is the value of the bond times the coupon rate. Per year we will get 8.6 million rupiah. But yeah, we calculate the quarterly, of course, because in a year we got 4 times, right? So 8.6 million divided by 4, and we got 2.105 million rupiah. And we need to calculate number of period that maturity times by 4, because each year we got 4 coupon. So total coupon payment during life of bond is quarterly coupon payment times 40, it's 86 million rupiah. So the total profit here, principal repayment 100 million rupiah, total cash received in the end is uh, is total received in the end is the the par value of the bond times the total coupon that we get. So total profit is, yeah, total we receive minus total initial investment, because there is transaction cost, yeah, 2 million, and then we get total profit 84 million, 84 million rupiah. Yeah, we calculate return, the total profit divided by total initial investment, and we get 82.4%, almost 100%, right? Yeah, because it's 10 years. And then we annualize the return in 10 years, and annually we got 8.2%. The transaction cost is relative. This is my comment. The transaction cost is relatively high. The investor's yield becomes lower than coupon, yeah, 8.6. This is 8.2 uh, because uh, because the transaction cost is relatively high, then and we do not get discount compared to Adira. So, if we need to decide what bond that we need to invest, I will choose Angkasa Pura. I use I I choose Angkasa Pura because it has higher annualized return, of course. But yeah, but there is uh, there is to consider. Yeah, longer maturity and higher interest rate rates, because the longer we invest, we need to see the interest every year, right? And then also longer time, because we don't know in the future we need the money or not, so we cannot take the money. Yeah, but I prefer higher yield because my orientation is higher profit, of course. So I choose Angkasa Pura Bond with annualized return is 8.2%. Thank you, Pak Yuda. This is my last presentation, my last explanation. Thank you, Pak Yuda, for your attention. I hope I am very happy that I can study financial management and policy because sometimes I want make my own company because I I yeah I I want make my own company, especially consultant company in mining industry. Thank you, Pak Yuda.